few years ago, a television show captured America's imagination like never before. With a powerful style of storytelling combining outrageous plot lines, dramatic plot twists, and riveting over-the-top characters, Americans became addicted to it, with millions actually thinking it was real. Obviously, it's not. There's no way something this insane could ever actually be real. It's a fictional TV show called American Emperor, like Succession, Game of Thrones, and Breaking Bad, all rolled into one. Each week, this podcast goes behind the scenes to break down each episode, talking to insiders and fans to bring you everything you need to know about it. This is Talking Trump, the American Emperor Aftershow. This week, Stormy Daniels takes the stand, and legal analysts are already calling her lurid description of bad sex the opposite of an episode of Euphoria. Hard to tell who the testimony was more damaging to, Trump or anyone in the world who may ever want to have sex again. I don't want to say it sounded gross, but the stenographer looked like Brad Pitt at the end of Seven.
Whatever he needs.
Plus, Judge Eileen Cannon delays the stolen documents trial because she's busy? Are producers and writers beginning to realize 4 trials they originally set up this season are a little overboard? And does the Trump character have the stamina to fall asleep in 3 other courtrooms? And what's going on with peripheral characters? Kim Jong-un's new phone Who Dis makes Kristi Noem's implosion complete. Hope Hicks makes a tearful cameo and exit at Trump's hush money trial. And Marjorie Taylor Greene's power move against Mike Johnson fizzles. Are we seeing the beginning of a house cleaning? A dizzying episode with storylines introduced and resolved at a frantic pace. This is Talking Trump, the American Emperor Aftershow. All right, so much to get into. Let's jump into it right now. I'm Christopher Lansing. I'm joined, as always, by author, filmmaker, and pop culture critic Tom Robb. Welcome. Another phenomenal episode.
Another episode that's really turning traditional storytelling on its ear.
We have to start with it. Stormy Daniels has finally taken the stand, and when she leaves, the stand should really be wiped down. In the courtroom, she testified. The Trump character said to her that she reminded him of his daughter, right off the bat. What do you think of that?
Not erotic, very vile. Clearly, America loved it. It was a ratings booster. They gambled on smut and won. You know, they've hinted strongly at his attraction to his own daughter. You know, bringing it up here, was it hack? Was it just fulfilling an earlier promise? I think the writers got together. They had a choice of having sort of a Larry Bird character be the prostitute, and Trump saying he reminded him of his son. Referencing Barron Trump, who is actually taller than Larry Bird. What do you make of the sex scene here that's described being told in flashback? Does it make it more powerful, more revolting to hear about it? I think it made it more erotic. It left more to the imagination. You're forcing your audience to imagine such a disgusting scenario. Well, yes, you're suddenly having mental pictures of a completely uncovered, unprotected sort of ginger man's penis. However, I heard behind the scenes that a number of the actors found this scene quite hot. The Stormy Daniels character is presented as a pornographic actress, yet she is revolted with this experience. Talk about, is that a statement against sex? Is it a statement against pornography? Here you have a woman whose professional career has brought her in front of the camera to perform all kinds of sexual acts, as per a commercial enterprise. And she's forced to meet this man in a hotel room. He's wearing satin pajamas. He wants to be spanked with Forbes magazine. These are things that would never appear in a pornographic movie. Yes, this is a dramatic device to paint the Trump character as sexually way more offensive and disgusting than someone who's had sex with 50, 60 men at a time. Found that to be much more tasteful, loving and sensitive than her experience with this character.
We have to talk about the gross description of the sex. Have you ever seen sex described like this in any kind of media? I don't even know if snuff filmmakers have walked into this area. We're in unprecedented space here.
I mean, I think the simple degree of revulsion that this actress, just on the verge of vomiting in every sentence of her testimony.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the what she engaged in as a character with him, I don't know if there's a porn search term for that. Can you search repulsive in Pornhub?
In my experience, you can search just about anything.
Chilling, very chilling. Now, during this testimony, Trump's legal team is repeatedly asking for a mistrial, and then they're denied by the judge. Is that the show saying, no, you have to listen to that? Are the lawyers who are asking for a mistrial a surrogate to the public watching this, saying, please end this? And the judge, the authority figure there, saying, no, you must listen.
Well, you're exactly right. There's clearly nothing more disgusting, offensive, hurtful, frightening, repulsive, repugnant that she's ever experienced, seen, read about, or dreamed.
I saw it as interesting because the lawyers for the Trump team were pleading for a mistrial. They were denied repeatedly, and at one point, they literally pleaded for a break. They said, "Oh, give me a break. At least give me a break," which is not, as you know, a legal term. It has no, residence in a legal courtroom. I mean, the judge could give the guy a break and be like, all right, I'm going to give you a break, whatever, take it easy for a second. So there was a desperation on their part, pleading for the mistrial, and then pleading for, hey, if you can't give me a mistrial, then at least give me a frickin' break, right?
Yeah, no, that was clearly had a double meaning.
All right, obviously, I feel like we could speak about this whole Stormy Daniels testifying scene in the courtroom for the entire episode, but I do want to move on. In a B plot line this week, we also learned that the Trump character's stolen documents trial has been delayed indefinitely. Now, here's my question. Are producers and writers starting to think that maybe they've bitten off a little bit more than they can chew with 4 trials planned for this season? There's also a significant delay in the Atlanta trial and the one about the insurrection episode that happened at the season finale last week. What are your thoughts?
They were too ambitious. The original plan was to have 100. It's too complicated to follow for a normal viewer. They've tried to spice it up. They gave 2 Georgia attorneys an affair and thought that would hook people in. And nothing works because courtrooms, even on Law and Order, it's only half the episode. So, yes, they're cutting back. They're curbing this sort of legal mania to sharpen focus for the series.
Now let's just really touch quickly on this Eileen Cannon character, who is the judge in charge of that secondary stolen documents trial thing. What do you make of her? The reason that they gave that she's delaying it indefinitely was that she's busy. I mean, is that a weak argument, or is she actually busy because she's such a good lackey for the Trump character? He's given her other menial tasks like picking up his laundry or making sure that his children's nannies are on schedule and whatnot. What do you think?
I rarely have criticism for the writing staff of this show, but to me, this is an example of lazy writing. It's my understanding from my context behind the scenes that on the day that this scene, the Eileen Cannon busy scene was written, there was a lobster truck near the writer's studio, and people with excellent lobster rolls on Beverly Boulevard. And
it could be quite good.
Fantastic. Not too much mayo, A really wonderful choice of breads.
In the show notes, we're going to put a link to one of these places because you're making me hungry right now. But go on. I'm interrupting you.
So I think they wanted to dispatch with, her nonsense.
Your inside sources have told you that the day that they basically mailed this storyline in because they all wanted to get lobster rolls.
Exactly.
Yeah. See, you also have to remember you're a professional, and
they wanted that seafood so much that they lost sight of reality, because an actual federal judge doesn't say they're too busy.
Let's move on because we're up against the break. I started to notice a trend this week with peripheral characters on the show possibly getting written out. Now, we saw this spectacular fall of Kristi Noem. We saw this character, Hope Hicks, make an appearance at the New York trial, cry, and then get escorted right out really quickly. And then, just a few weeks ago, where she seemed on top of the world, this week, the big power move by Marjorie Taylor Greene against Mike Johnson fizzled. Do you think that we are in a place of house cleaning as far as characters on the show?
Yes, we've seen this before where they're like, let's simplify. Some characters will stay, but I think we're going to see numerous people, even some of the Trump children, swept away so we don't have to pay attention to them or see their faces.
And before we round this out, let's just talk about the Marjorie Taylor Greene. We've talked about this character a lot. She's been very explosive, but her big power move on the show fizzles. Is that a sign of her impending exit?
She might be too clownish and entertaining to be written out completely, but it is a sign that the sort of father-son, porn-addicted Mike Johnson family is too intriguing to get rid of.
Sometimes when you get a character that's super hot, like a white hot nova, flashing, doesn't mean on this show you're going to stick around for long. Look what happened with that Lauren Boebert character. She was peaking and super popular and constantly on every episode, and they write her off with a horrible hand job subplot, in community theater, production of Beetlejuice. I mean, I think she offended somebody on the inside, and and they just bounced her to show everybody on the set to teach them a lesson.
Well, I think that if this show has any tragic flaw, it's a too large writing staff and too many agendas. And so you get characters that are muddled and too many complicated subplots. Boebert was a gun nut. Boebert was a bar owner. Boebert had a pet shop. There were just numerous things that were happening. Too many cooks.
All right, well, we're coming up against the break, but when we come back, we're going to take some of your questions. That's right, it's listener mail. This is Talking Trump, the American Emperor After Show. All right, welcome back to Talking Trump, the American Emperor After Show. We are about to jump into some emails we get from you, the audience. By the way, if you want to send us an email or a question, hit us up at Instagram at American Emperor After Show. Okay, the first one comes from Rebecca Conroy of Madison, Wisconsin, and she says, as much as season 2 is revving up, I miss some characters from season 1. Do you see any chance of some of those characters coming back? I was always a fan of the colorful Roger Stone character. Any chance he comes back? What do you think, Tom?
Well, I'm not surprised that someone from the Dairy Belt, like you, Rebecca, loves the Stone character. He was very popular in Minnesota, Wisconsin. His milky white hair and his sort of cow-like eyes. But I think for now, they're going to hold off. We might see it later in the season.
I would think that it's hard for this show to reboot a character. They tried to bring back the Nikki Haley character. Remember, she was a minor role season 1. She played like an ambassador at the UN. Then they tried to bring her back as the Trump character's main opponent. I'd give it a C- at best, probably like a D. I have high hopes for the Michael Cohen return, which apparently is scheduled for next episode. We'll see about that. Here's this oafish doofus lawyer who's just insane, and then they bring him back. And he's going to take a run at the Trump character, kind of assassinate the king type of thing. Is this show? Have you seen any success in rebooting characters?
Well, I just think as a storytelling device, the Cohen character might be just too valuable to eliminate completely. To have someone who hates your main character, who was once an inner courtier and now has turned on him, and has the inside scoop on lots of kind of court intricacies. It's too hard to give him up. So I think he's going to rear his unattractive head at necessary intervals throughout the series.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he's presented as a lawyer, but does anyone in the country who watches the show really believe that this guy is a lawyer?
He doesn't present so much as a lawyer, as someone who attends the counter in Enterprise Rental.
Yeah, I was going to say, you remember that episode where they asked him about his law experience, and he presented as proof of his argument style how he argued over a parking spot in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn.
Right. He's somebody and the actor they cast, I could see in a short sleeve business shirt more than, trotting the floor in front of a distinguished barrister.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to put you on the spot real quick. Give me a line or two about whether or not you missed these characters and you want to see them come back, or what your just general thoughts are. How about the character of Bill Barr?
Bill Barr, sort of like the Cowardly Lion, was both absurd, insane, constantly contradictory, but just sort of pudgy and lovable. So I don't mind seeing him rear his face. You never know what he's going to say or what side he's on.
He had an enormous head. Was his head generated by CGI? Because it seems that no human neck could support that head. I heard, and again, unofficially, I heard his head weighed upwards of 55 pounds.
Yeah, which on a 400-pound man doesn't seem that bad, but that's a heavy head. Yeah. That's a heavy head. That's like, a head that weighs as much as your rear SUV tire.
Yeah, I understand that he had to have his hats made at a company that makes radial tires.
Yeah, that's true. So
because the circumference is so massive.
I don't mind seeing, and for that reason, I don't mind seeing him come back every once in a while.
I'm going to answer this. I'm going to jump in here with my answer. I missed that character of Dr. Fauci. And, you tell me if I'm wrong. That was portrayed by Estelle Getty from Golden Girls, right?
That's true. Yeah, the only problem is I think the comical way in which Getty played him generated a lot of very unfortunate sort of anti-Italian prejudice.
Let's move on to our second question. This one comes from Kyle Remington of Concord, New Hampshire. Looking ahead to season 2, I always enjoyed the bromances and the homoerotic aspect Trump's character had with other international leaders, Putin, Kim Jong-un, Boris Johnson. Who do you see him being set up with next on an international scale should he win?
I think it's difficult to tell. Maybe this sort of terrifying Saudi prince is the kind of person he would consort with, and maybe have some intriguing sort of journalist-related crimes. He loves the freak show. They're not going to have him cozy up to, a Macron or maybe the Hungarian fascist leader will be played by an amusing foreign actor.
I'm going to predict that it could be Duarte from the Philippines, and we see a whole South Asian flair overtake the Trump character. What do you think about the show positioning the Trump character with foreign leaders who are male and having him explore these like affectionate homoerotic type relationships. Why does he have to go outside of a country to explore that part of himself? What is that statement all about?
Well, I think what we've seen from the Stormy Daniels episode is he likes to explore the outer boundaries of sex. And where can you do that more freely than in these foreign countries with different laws, in mansions, castles, and palaces, without the prying eyes of the public or, an elected judiciary?
Love letters with Kim Jong-un, private meetings with no one else around with Vladimir Putin, those types of things. They're a major aspect of the show and how it presents this character on an international basis.
We're going to see more and more of that too.
We are coming up on another break, but stick with us. When we come back, we're going to close out the show with a few predictions of what to look out for in the coming weeks. More Talking Trump, the American Emperor Aftershow, when we return. Welcome back, everyone. Right now, before we close out the show, a couple of quick predictions for what you could see in the coming weeks. I'm going to put you right on the spot, Tom. What's your prediction?
I think we're going to see the Trump and Melania characters in marriage counseling. I think we're going to see some addiction plot lines. I think we're going to have the Trump character go on an ayahuasca journey. These are all things that have to do with self-exploration and with the inner search for knowledge and understanding, in the sense of appealing to a wider audience.
Very interesting. Very interesting. In light of this recent development where the 4 trials are kind of collapsing into one, I think this is a result of the showrunners drafting off the success of a show like Jury Duty, which was a huge hit over the last summer. They're very susceptible to like what's working in other venues and bringing it into the American Emperor show. I think in light of that, I think they're going to move to another successful show and incorporate a lot of the elements of that. And I think that show is Squid Game. I think you're going to see a lot of very physical, very violent, very disturbing contests develop in the coming weeks. I think that the Trump character is going to enjoy being the person who is running that whole thing. I think you're going to see Stephen Miller fight to the death against people, maybe Steve Bannon. I think you're going to see a reason for to be constructed a giant ring, like almost have human cockfighting. I think you're going to see a lot of hand-to-hand, a lot of like violent, bloody death going on. And I think that they're going to justify it in the executive producers room by saying, hey, look, it worked for Squid Game. Why won't it work for us?
Yeah, I totally agree. It can't hurt to have a little Hunger Games and a little sort of gag, like an old Nickelodeon surprise show happen, and have a feel of professional wrestling added to the political drama.
All right, well, that brings us to the end of another episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. This has been Talking Trump, the American Emperor After Show. For myself and for Tom Robb, we want to say thank you and join us again next time. We really appreciate you guys listening. Good night.
Good night.